Hey, virtual pilots, we're back with another live stream. Hot off the heels of the very exciting news earlier on the week about Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024. I suspect, though, we are probably more than a year away from the release of that. Slightly mixed reception from the community, but we will have to make do, I'm afraid, this evening with Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020, as we should now refer to it. We're taking out the new Cessna 182 with the retractable landing gear from Coronado. I've been messing around with this today. I think it's quite a nice aircraft, as is typical with the Coronado stuff. It looks and sounds fabulous. It doesn't, of course, have real fidelity and depth within the systems, but if you're a little bit bored of the stock aircraft in the sim, if you're getting to the point that you're ready to start thinking about some third-party aircraft, but perhaps not ready for the complexity that comes with some of the full systems simulation, then this I think could be a great first aircraft for you, retailing 16 UK pounds. I picked this up from the marketplace for, and I mean, it really does look cracking. Very, very similar to the 180 and the 182 that Coronado released a few years ago, but this one does have the retractable landing gear. This is the naturally aspirated version. There is in real life a turbocharged version of this aircraft available, but the version that Coronado have done is the naturally aspirated version, and she flies beautifully. She's a Cessna, so very stable in the air, lots of fun to fly, very stable on the approach. We are doing a steep approach landing challenge this evening. If you jump onto my Twitter, the link to which is down in the description, you'll be able to see this evening's flight plan. We are taking off from Coventry Airport. Just check my notes. Taking off from Coventry Airport, we are flying into Leicester, which is not very far from Coventry. That's a relatively steep approach due to some fairly tall trees at the threshold of runway 10. We will probably stop at Leicester and go and have a look around. I've got some Hayware custom scenery, which is quite nice and worth having a little gander at. We'll then fly on to Finland. Great add-on scenery from Burning Blue Designs. Now this is interesting because there are some power lines relatively close to the approach to runway 18. And because we've got the solar farms and power lines add-in, the freeware add-in from flightsim.to, those are, I went and checked this earlier, those are actually modelled there. So, and there are collisions that would be detected. So if you come in too shallow on that approach, you'll collide with the power lines. I mean, people do this in real life. I mean, there are loads of videos, and it's pretty shocking actually when it happens in what are relatively light GA aircraft. As the landing gear catches those wires, the plane will just flip head on tail. So you need to come in relatively steep. You need to stay high later than perhaps you normally would in a pattern, and then come down on a relatively steep approach. We'll have a little goosey around Finland. That's a new scenery add-on. It's not a new scenery add-on. It's new to me. We're then going to fly to Little Grandston, which again, and I should say Finland is a grass landing strip, as is Little Grandston. Little Grandston has the same challenge as Finland. It's got power lines on the approach, so a steep approach required. And then, just for funsies, and because I found this airport as a freeware add-on on flightsim.to, we'll be going to Cranfield, which is not a grass runway. It's a humongous great airport in the Midlands, actually not that far from Coventry. We'll almost have done a loop. I've landed so much at Coventry, both in real and virtual life, that we're not going to close the loop and go all the way around. As always, this evening's flight is alcohol fueled. One of my favourite wines this evening, folks, a white, a Côte de Rhône. Now, it's a French wine, better known for its red variant, but I have always had quite the penchant for a white Sauvignon Blanc. So, I hope you're having a good Friday. Cheers. All right, I will top up my glass. We've done the intro. And without further ado, I think we will jump into VR and we will get this flight on the roll. We're cold and dark here at Coventry. It's not a difficult aircraft to get started up. So let's jump into VR. Okay, folks, just checking you can hear me. Yes, you appear that you can. Oh, wonderful. Okay. One of my slight niggles with this aircraft is the starting position for VR is in an odd place. So I've just connected my Bluetooth keyboard. I don't know why the sim always has a little meltdown every time I do that. But it does. Let's just get ourselves positioned correctly. Yeah, that feels about right. A little bit too far forward. There we go, perfect. Okay, right, landing gears down, parking brake is set. Let's bring up our chart for this evening. So as I say, if you want to look at this a little bit more clearly, you can go on my Twitter account and you can take a look there. But if I just move that up, so we're starting in Coventry just here, just under the Birmingham airspace, across to Leicester. We will stop there, not a touch and go, we'll actually land and have a little nose around, as I say, as payware scenery there, then across to Finland, then down to little Grandston, and then over to Cranfield there. In total, flight time itself I think is about an hour. Obviously it's going to take a bit longer than that because we will be stopping in places. Let's just bring up the details for Leicester. Leicester's got an elevation of let's call it 500 feet. And it's a left-hand traffic pattern at Leicester with an overhead, or at least it will be on the runway that we're landing on, which will be runway 10, and it's a standard overhead join at that airfield. Okay, so let's get battery and alternator on. Let's check the fuel is on both, which it is. Go high RPM and full rich. 1/2 inch on the throttle. Prime. It's a cold start, so 3 primes. They're great. The sounds are very nicely done on this aircraft, I have to say. Okay, let's get avionics on. Strobe and nav light on, which of course I did.
System test okay.
Before I started the engine. Seems to be a consistent theme of my live streams. Right, flight plan. Right, so we're starting at Coventry, EGBE, or EGBE as my wife calls it. And we are going to Leicester. We're not doing strictly VFR today. I mean, technically we're flying under VFR rules. Some of these airfields, not Leicester so much. Finland's not too bad. Little Grandston's really hard to see, so doing a little bit of minor cheating this evening. That we are going to use the 750 NXI to guide us where we're going. Right, Finland EGCL. EGMJ. And last but not least, EGTC Cranfield. Let's preview that. Looking good. We could put in our altitudes as well. We'll be 3,000 feet for the first leg. We'll be going 5,500 feet as we're on an easterly heading, so odd numbers on VFR plus 500. Then when we're going down to Little Grandston, we are going to be I think we'll do 3,000 for that as well. And 3,000 for the last leg. We will be in controlled airspace at that point. Okay. It's looking good. Right, lean our mixture ready for taxi. Let's get our taxi light on. We're gonna ignore our suicidal friend over there. If you can see the birds just up there, one of my favourite add-ons actually. So something about bringing the world to life. I will hop out of VR as I land at each airport and just go and check the chat. So if you've got any thoughts, any comments, any questions you want to ask, any suggestions you may want to make for this flight, then please pop those down in the chat. We're well into summer here in the UK. It's pretty toasty warm in this room. I'll spare you putting all of my fans on because you'll hear a great whirring noise, albeit that does remind me, one of the nice things about this aircraft is you've got these air vents you can pop out. If you do that when you're up in the air, you actually hear the the air rushing through them, but that's a nice touch. All the windows and doors open, of course, as well. No need to get ourselves lined up in the into the wind for our run-up. It's nice, clear skies, calm winds today. The nose seems to sink a lot on this aircraft as you brake, much more so than I've seen in other aircraft, albeit the ground handling is nice. Not sure what Just Flight have done with their PA-28s, but since the last update they have become way too sensitive in my opinion. Okay, 1700 RPM for our run-up. Checking our magnetos. No more than 150 RPM drop. And no more than 50 difference between the two. That's looking good. And exercise the propeller. Do that 3 times. That's looking good. And idle the engine, and she shouldn't cut. Okay, run up is complete. Idle at 1000 RPM. Okay, we're going to backtrack on the runway. Before we do that, let's get a heading bug on our, not the heading bug, the VDI needle. 49 degrees. About there. And we'll get our heading bug. In fact, we'll use our heading bug because we're going to fly a traffic pattern around Coventry. We're going to come out to Takeoff water. I don't know if you can see that here. We'll fly a traffic pattern. We'll be coming out this way, round, flying a traffic pattern, and then we'll come across to Takeoff water. That'll get us out of the way of traffic around Coventry, and then we can merge back onto our course there. Let's get our landing lights on. Looking left, looking right. The windows in this thing, aside from the classic, as you're flying a Cessna, as you're doing a traffic pattern, your wing is in the way of where you want to look, but the windows are really low in this thing. It does make it quite tricky to look out. No need for any flaps. Interesting bit of history of Coventry Airport. It's generally just a general aviation school, so it's Cessnas, it's Piper Warriors and things like that coming in and out of it. But it did have an awful lot of freight that used to come in and out of it. Still does have some freight that comes in and out of it. But they did actually used to fly aircraft bound for holiday destinations out of here. They had a little customs area and you could check in. I mean, it was nothing glamorous, but there was a shop. You could buy food and drink from Mavis. She literally had a little fridge under her counter. As a result, though, the size of some of those aircraft is a really, really long runway here at Coventry. Far, 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 far longer than it needs to be for little general aviation aircraft like this. Get our taxi lights off. Go full rich. Okay. Heels down. Takeoff power is set. The D's and B's are in the green. Airspeed is coming alive. It's 55 knots, rotate. We're up. Don't need to rush the landing gear up in this aircraft. The landing gear is good up to 140 knots, and we're well below that. Well clear of obstacles as well, so landing gear is coming up. Okay, coming up on 500 feet QFE, back to 25 inches manifold pressure, 25 RPM, and we will start standard rate turn to the left. Up to 3,000 feet, so let's get that dialed into our autopilot. It's 1,000 AGL, so that's traffic altitude. Okay, and we're downwind. You can see Draycott water just there. Very difficult to miss. Get ourselves a beam with the runway threshold, and then we'll turn towards the water. There we are, we're a beam. Standard rate turn to the right. We go 2,500 RPM, go back to 25 inches manifold pressure, and we're going to climb up to 3,000 feet. The traffic patterns aren't just about getting yourself ready for landing, they're about organising traffic out of the airport or aerodrome as well. Get those landing lights off. Just keep pushing the manifold pressure in. It's not a turbocharged aircraft, so as we climb, as the air pressure gets thinner, the manifold pressure is going to go down. Okay, that's Draycott water, there or thereabouts, it's close enough. Start our turn to the left, get ourselves back on course. Okay, autopilot coming on. Just lean our mixture a little bit. She's a nippy bird. I mean, we've got 140 knot ground speed. That's in the climb. I mean, that's impressive. Okay, we're coming up on 3,000. We'll drop back to 21 inches of manifold pressure. 2300 RPM, a little bit more leaning on the mixture, but nothing crazy. That's 145 knots ground speed. That retractable landing gear, it does make a difference. And she's a nice aircraft to fly. Nothing very dramatic, it's relaxing. Everything's relatively straightforward. As I say, if you're getting bored with a stock aircraft, you're not quite ready to throw yourself into something massively complex, this is a nice halfway house, and it looks absolutely fantastic in VR. So Leicester's elevation's 500 feet, pattern altitude is 1,000 feet above that, so 1,500 feet. Q&H, and it's a standard overhead join, not descending lower than 1,700 feet on the dead side as a result of helicopter circuits that take place there. So there's a couple of hundred feet that we'll need to lose on our downwind leg. It's privately owned aerodrome, Leicester, not so much for sort of lessons and clubs, it's more a sort of members club. I think they've got a bar where you can drink there as well. Now this is a custom scenery. Apologies, I can't remember what the name of the developer was. I found it on flightsim.to completely by accident. It is payware, but it is an add-on scenery as well. Not at all sure what that airport is. Okay. And nav on. We're about 8 miles away from the runway, so I'm going to start a descent to 2,500, ready for our overhead join. Nothing crazy, 500 feet per minute, but we don't want to pick up a load of speed either. On autopilot at the moment, but that will quite quickly come off. Let's get our heading bug set to a runway heading 10. That's 6 nautical miles out. As I say, it's not a long distance from Coventry to Leicester. Takes a damn sight longer to drive, I can assure you that. So just keeping my eyes peeled for the airport. I've got what I think is it. Yes, that is it. Okay, autopilot coming off. I'm actually going to go full rich on the mixture. Left-hand circuits here at Leicester, or certainly on runway 10. I am flabbergasted that Microsoft have announced Flight Simulator 2024. I have hundreds, if not thousands of hours in this flight simulator, and I'm wowed every time I step into this in VR. The fact that we're maybe a year, maybe a little bit more away from the next version of this coming out is absolutely mind-boggling to me. Right, I am actually going to get our landing gear down now. There's going to be an awful lot going on in a second, and it will give us a bit of helpful drag. That's the airfield just down there. Okay, we're crossing overhead. There she is, just down there. And let's pull the power back. I'm going to go idle, in fact. Remember, we're not descending all the way to pattern altitude. There's that 200 feet we need to maintain. A little bit of power coming back in. We're going to want to turn relatively steep, otherwise we won't make it all the way around. It's sort of on the runway threshold that we want to cross. And for some reason the UK have these epic gaps between pattern altitude and dead side altitudes that other countries don't seem to have. 500 feet in most countries, 1,000 in the UK for some reason. And that's it, we're looking good. Okay. Okay, we're within the white arc. I'm going to put the first notch of flaps in. Okay, crossing the threshold. Okay. And turning towards our downwind leg. Coming up on pattern altitude, we're on speed. Want to be about 90 knots with our first notch of flaps in. There's pattern altitude. 90 knots, bob on. Not bad, not bad. Okay, second notch of flaps. I'm going to go full RPM. Going to be a relatively tight turn around. We're not going to have a base leg really. It's going to be a curved in, so get as much of the work done as we can now. Start slowing ourselves down. Start descending. It's 80 knots, that's where we want to be. Okay, let's start our turn. Standard rate turn to the left. Let's get those landing lights on. Alright, gear is down a lot. We're high RPM, we're full rich. Oh, we are going to have just a smidge of a downwind, of a base leg, sorry. Not a very big one though. Alright, we've got a little far, so taking the power out. And this is what I mean, there is a great grey strip because there are some fairly tall trees. So this is the first of... This is a moderately steep approach. It's not as bonkers as some of the others. That final notch of flaps in. That's registering. Just manage.
500.
Of course, she wants to pitch up. Okay, we're clear of those trees. We're looking good. We're where we want to be. 70, getting ourselves more towards 60. That's looking nice. That's 60 and level out. And a centerline flare. No, I will have that. Taking the flaps out. Lean for taxi. Yeah, Yeah, she's a lot of fun to fly. She's nice. She's got that very aggravating Cessna characteristic that you can't actually see the airport as you're turning in the pattern. We'll just take ourselves off here. We're essentially gonna backtrack back round the runway. We'll just pause there for a second. Hey, Noah, hey, how you doing? Good to have you here. Right, just checking my notes. But yes, we've done that right. Runway 10, Leicester, left-hand circuit, standard overhead join, not below 1200 QFE on dead side. Right, Finland, right-hand circuit, runway 18. Not entirely clear on the information online for the airfield how they want you to join, so we're going to choose to join a downwind. I suspect that you get those instructions as you radio in and you get aircraft as you get airfield information. But that's first of our landings. Let's get back in and get on with the next. And get myself a little top up while I'm here. Cheers. Hope you're all having a good Friday. Friday? Saturday. Saturday. Just checking you can hear me. Yeah, that looks okay. Whew. Right, let's check out Finland. Yes. So, runway 18, also known as South. We've got the next leg of our flight plan. Yes, we do. And that is bearing a 77, so let's get that dialed in as well. Of course, it's not navigating about where that VOR needle is pointing. Just from a sort of situational awareness perspective, I find it much easier to get that needle lined up. So easy when there's a lot going on to get yourself disorientated. Okay, backtracking here at Leicester. I mean, we could, the winds are calm, we could just take off in this direction, but we'd be pointing the wrong way then. A little bit fast, no need to rush. Potentially could have taken you round to have a look at Leicester a little bit more. I don't know if you can see some of that over there. Nice payware scenery. Yeah, someone, the developer who did this has done a good job with it. A right old muddle of tarmac runways, grass runways, all sort of, I'm going to exaggerate a little bit, it's more like in a triangle, but I always feel like it's a couple of overlapping pentagons when you come into Leicester. It's Just slowing us down. Ready for a turn. Not particularly smooth, this grey part of the tarmac. Okay. Again, no need, I think, on this runway for any flaps. We've got sufficient length. We'll just get the power in relatively quickly. Make sure we've trim as a takeoff. It is. Right, takeoff power is set. T's and P's are in the green. Airspeed is coming alive. That is 55 knots a rotate. Landing gear is coming up. Ourselves on our course. I think we said 5,500 for this bit. We did. Great to see another aircraft with the TDS 750 NXI integration. It's almost got to the point that it's becoming one of the things that I look out for, actually. It does give me pause when aircraft don't have it. Now, of course, it does depend on how good the avionics that the manufacturer of the aircraft have designed, and they can be very good, actually. Right, let's go 25 inches. Let's get those landing lights off. Temperatures and pressures all green. Plenty of fuel. Yeah, she's flying like a dream, frankly. Let's go 5,500. And nav on, autopilot's on, that'll take us up to 5,500. Just lean the mixture just a smidge, nothing too crazy. I got 33 nautical miles. I believe this is the longest leg of this evening's journey. I don't know what that airfield was that we saw about halfway between Coventry and Leicester. I'm going to go and have a nose on Google Maps after I finish this stream. I didn't notice that. I haven't noticed that previously. Again, we're in a climb. You know, we're doing 700-800 feet per minute, 137 knots ground speed, 130 knots indicated airspeed. This is a nice aircraft. This, I would recommend this for 16 UK pounds. I'm certain it's about the same in euros, about the same in US dollars. That's not bad. That is not a bad little investment, actually. Very similar in many respects to the PA-28 Warrior 3 from Just Flight, in terms of all the speeds, etc., that you're gonna get to as you're flying traffic patterns coming in for approach. She flies very similar. Doesn't float as much as I would expect. And I think that the 182 does float in real life. Another airfield over there, look. It's interesting. Yeah, she doesn't float as much as I would expect as you when you come in on short final and then you do your round out and then you'll flare. She feels a little bit more like a Piper than she does a Cessna. It's actually one of the things that after the Microsoft Flight Simulator development team had put the computational fluid dynamics and the prop wash, the new propeller physics, etc. on the 152 and the 172, they really did get that floating dynamic, that ground effect effectively. Right, let me just pop these vents out so you can hear what they sound like. You see, if you're flying in a hot day, they're going to give a bit of welcome relief. They're doing nothing for me though, other than making a really annoying noise, so we'll pop those closed. So we're going as high as 5,500 to get ourselves over this this airspace surrounding it's had half a glass of wine too much. We're going to 5,500 feet to get ourselves over the airspace here at Wittering. Going to want to drop fairly quickly once we're the other side. So we're going to be joining downwind on a right-hand traffic pattern for runway 18, as I said at the beginning of the stream. There are power lines very close on short final. I'll just lean that off a little bit more. We're a bit higher than we were before. A little bit lean of peak. Get some fuel efficiency. We do not want to be snagging our gear on those power lines. If you've not checked out the solar farms and power lines freeware add-on from flightsim.to, do go and do that. Honestly, some of the best add-ons I think that I've put into the sim. It's all about just making the world feel real. Very impressed. No frame rate hit whatsoever that I've been able to detect, either playing on a flat screen monitor or in VR. And when you see power lines, or if you see the pylons with no power lines attached to them, I mean, for me personally, it's very immersion breaking. Yeah, it's interesting because according to the 750 NXI, we've avoided that airspace entirely, but according to my flight plan, we were going to go directly over it. Oh, I've brought up the wrong thing entirely. There's a sort of extended airspace around that. Let's try adding a bit more detail back in. There we go, there it is. Okay, that makes sense. we're halfway there already. It's incredible how quickly cover these distances. 145 knots, what's that? 155 miles an hour. I'm telling you folks, this is the way to fly. Coventry, where we started from, is largely considered to be a very landlocked part of the country. That is the ocean. We've not been up in the air for all that long, so that gives you some sense of just how quickly you're moving. And of course, you know, very large countries like the United States, it still takes a very long time to get between places. Not so true in the UK, folks. I mean, within a couple of hours you can be on the other side of the country, and it really is a very, very nice way of travelling. Excuse me. Okay, we're out of that controlled airspace. I'm going to drop us down to 3,000 feet. So we've got quite so much work to do. So arm that, let's get the vertical speed in. I'm going to drop us down fairly aggressively at 1,000 feet in a second. I'm going to bring that right back out. I don't want to gain a whole heap of airspeed. Elevation is effectively 0. In fact, I'm going to get us down to 2,000 feet. Nice touches with, don't know if you can see that, just a little bit smudged dirt just around the edges here, and the aircraft looks used and worn, and like when you look at those textures really close, that looks fab. Okay, 8 miles to go. Just coming up on 3,000 feet. So I'm just trying to get some sense of how quickly I'm descending versus how quickly I'm moving towards the airfield. Feels like we're descending quick enough. We're doing about 1,000 feet per nautical mile, and we've got 6.5 nautical miles to go, so we can probably shallow that out a little bit and lose a little bit more speed. So let's get ourselves down to that 1,000 feet of pattern altitude. So we're joining on the downwind leg this time, so we're going to want to get our landing gear down. In fact, let's do that now. Landing gear can be dropped anything below 140 knots. That's going to give us some extra drag. That's going to slow us down. That's a good thing for us to do. 4.5 nautical miles. And about 700 feet to go to pattern altitude. Quick slurp of wine. Landing lights coming on. I think I can see the runway. In fact, I'm certain that I can. 3 nautical miles to go. 400 feet until we're at pattern altitude. That's all feeling good. Let's go full rich. Hear the slight change of pitch in the propeller there as we went full rich on the propeller. Just pull the prop back. Okay, and let's get that autopilot off. It does have a habit of putting itself back on, which is very frustrating. That's pattern altitude. Got ourselves a little bit too close there. I'm going to turn relatively steeply. There's the power lines. I need to be conscious of those. I've overturned deliberately just to give myself just that little bit more space. And I'm going to go full idle because we're fast and I want to get flaps in relatively quickly. We've first notch of flaps coming in. Let's get some power back in. Just trying to give ourselves a little bit of space. That's looking okay. Get ourselves a little bit low. That's not hugely helpful, so I'm going to put some power in and just climb a bit. I'm going to go a little bit steeper in the turn. Lost the runway's over there. I've come in far too steep. Oh, that is a mess. Okay, let's do the short base. That has got to be just about the worst pattern I think I have ever done. That's recoverable though. They are hard to see, these grass
500.
strips. Okay, I'm actually going to slip us in. That's fine. That would have been a go around in real life, folks. Let's be very clear. But we managed to pull it off. Oh, that was terrible. These grass runways. I was so conscious of how close I was. I came round so steeply, then couldn't see it. And then by the time I saw it, I was almost on top of it. Let's get those flaps out. Let's get those landing lights off, taxi light on. Oof, taking your life into your hands. But this is a lovely little airfield scenery from Burning Blue Designs. Really nice to see them doing some of the more rural airports. Welcome to Finland in one piece. Okay, just going to check my notes for the next one. Okay, Little Grandston is arrive runway 10. They want long final. I can tell you this now, she's so difficult to find, there is almost no chance of us doing a long final. We need to arrive at 2,500 feet. Okay, right, let's get our landing lights on, taxi lights off, let's get ourselves back in the air. That's 107. I am going to put a notch of flaps in for this. 187. Okay, right, full rich. Let's go. T's and P's are in the green. Airspeed is coming alive. There's 55 knots, rotate. And we're up. Landing gears coming up. So there's some wind turbines there, so we want to get some reasonable altitude fairly quickly. This leg is 3,500.
25 inches. Landing lights coming off. I'm going to go 3,000, I think we said, for this leg. So look how accurate this is. We're heading this way down south. The GTN 750 NXI's got a load of windmills there, albeit they just disappeared, but they were there, and there they are. That is how accurate this thing is. All of these things are where you expect to find them. And they've done that around the entire world. That alone is a hell of an achievement. About 28.5 nautical miles to go. I love summer in the UK, but it is hotter than the surface of the sun in here with a VR headset strapped to your face. We may just drop out of VR for a second.
It's a bit warm. It's a bit warm. We've got a little way to go, so... Still 24 nautical miles to go. Have a little look. That's aircraft. I think she looks really peculiar without that Chrysler landing gear. I mean, you used to see countries landing gear up. I always think this looks a little bit peculiar. Missing, but it was a bit different from that. That's what happens, folks. Look at some of the internal views that they've done. Landing view, co-pilot. Landing. Instrument views as well. Or that one looking at my panel. Oh, look at that rough wiring and stuff that they've got under there. I had not noticed that. You can't see that from the standard view. That's a nice little touch. Very nice. It's worth going in and looking at these things. Practically smell the 70s coming off of it. And these great big windows that they have on them as well. I mean, I don't know who they ever think is looking out of those, but nice nonetheless. Very nice. Quite happy with my my £16 purchase. Right, we're 14 nautical miles away. Let's have a look at our chart. Can bring this up in screen view as well. Okay, we're not going to get the elevation off of that. Probably get the elevation off of this. Let's call it 300. Okay, 300, so let's go 1300 on that and start sending. Start dropping that fairly aggressively. Probably going to have to get myself back into the RX soon, folks. Ben says if he wasn't already comfy with a glass of wine, he would jump in the sim and show us a really steep approach, but I very much doubt he would do a traffic pattern before he attempted that approach. Remember, folks, a good landing is always preceded by a good traffic pattern. What you saw from me earlier was a shite traffic pattern and a shite landing. But a landing you can walk away from is a good one. Always remember that, folks. Apparently this is turning into a how drunk can I get live stream and still fly the plane. Look, that's nearly a bottle in. Deary me. Right, what are we? 8.6 nautical miles away. We're at that's altitude. That's okay, jolly good. Thanks for that. Quick, wouldn't we? I am going to jump back in the boat because it's going to be an absolute sod to find this particular airfield.
Okay, let's get our landing light on. Right, landing gears coming down. So what they don't want you doing is overflying these built-up areas. I think what we're going to do is find the airfield, then fly a pattern around it. That's it there. Fairly certain that's it. And this is obviously a problem for this particular airstrip. When you look on their instructions online, it very explicitly calls out, see, I'm about to do exactly what they don't want you to, which is to overfly a built-up area. Identifying this airstrip is obviously a problem because it talks very explicitly about if you can't identify the airstrip, basically bug off. Pretty certain that's it. I mean, it's effectively a field with some huts next to it. That's got to be it. Yeah, it is. It is. It is tricky to spot. Get that first notch of flaps in. gear is down and locked. First notch of flaps is in. I'm going to go out a little bit further so that we've got a fighting chance of making some corrections if we need to. Okay, going to turn base. Landing lights are already on. I think we're going to end up going in a full loop here. Not the best aircraft to be doing this in. Second notch of flaps and high RPM. Pretty sure that's what I'm looking for. Really, really tricky to see. That is what I'm looking for. Okay. Good.
$500.
Very much set up on a better approach than the last one. Those are those power lines just there. So I want to keep relatively shallow until we're past those. I don't know if you can just make out the pylons there, but it does make for a steep approach. Okay, we're looking good. There we go. That is how it's done, folks. Flaps coming out. Lean for taxi. You see the power lines run right next to the airfield. Alright, landing lights off, taxi lights on. This airfield I do want to show you. She's great, actually. Again, burning blue designs, you can't go wrong. If you're flying in the UK, they do awesome stuff. More than each tank of fuel has got more than a quarter left, plenty enough for the last leg of our journey. Gonna get a little bit of speed up because there's a little hill here. Nothing major, nothing to. You just need the momentum to get up it. Look at all of this. Awesome. And the power lines look running right over the airfield. Okay, let's just stop there for a second. Keep ourselves at 1000 RPM. Okay. Oh. Apparently we've lost our online services. That's odd. We're still streaming, so... oh, there we go. They've connected. Not quite as intrusive as it used to be, which is good to see. Right, so it's runway 21. Let's get that on our heading bug. It's a left-hand traffic pattern. We're joining downwind. Let's get our charts up. And we're coming on to the last leg of this evening's flight. And it will be... in fact, it's not runway 21 we're going to be landing at. It'll be runway 3. That's 252. Grand. Right, let's get this show on the road. Keep losing connection. How strange. There we go. Connection's successfully reconnected. Let's ignore it for now. I mean, clearly we're connected online. That last landing was pretty good, actually, and this was the one that I was worried about. It's just such a difficult airfield to see. Somewhat ironically, the middle one was the one that we balked some. Right, riding on the brakes just as we come over the crest of that hill. We don't want to come down too crazily hard. I'm going to have a notch of flaps in. I'm going to remember to take out this time. Okay, let's go. Let's get this done. Takeoff power is set. T's and P's are in the green. Airspeed is coming alive. We got some pylons and really big trees right in front of us. That's 55 knots rotate, and we're up. And we're going steep. Landing gears coming up. We are well over those. And turning to our en route course. Sticking with our 3,000 feet. Nice. That's 1,000 feet. Landing lights off. flaps coming out. Okay, we're 12 nautical miles away from Cranfield. Elevation is, let's call it 400 feet, so we're going to want to be 1400 feet in altitude. We've reached this altitude, we're almost going to be descending as soon as we've got here. This has been a lovely, lovely, lovely aircraft to fly. We're really impressed with this. One of the better offerings, I think, from Coronado. She's just simple and she just does what she says on the tin. So this last one's not a steep approach, folks. There's nothing particularly difficult about this landing. The airport, I mean, I can fairly certain I can actually see it from here. She's big airfield, nothing steep, easy to see. It's interesting, isn't it, thinking about Flight Simulator 2024. I think so many of us that feel so sort of emotionally invested within this flight simulator, the thought of sort of letting it go, I think is part of some of the negative reaction that we've seen from people. But of course we've been, I mean I started my flight simulator journey, if you can believe this, I can't even remember what version it was. It was back in the 1980s, folks, when Jaggies were very common and virtual reality was a fantasy that you saw in science fiction movies. I did an awful lot in the Century of Flight version. I think that was 2004. Maybe 2003, I can't quite remember. And then of course Flight Simulator X, various flavours of X-Plane over the years. most recently Flight Simulator, a Microsoft Flight Simulator, brackets, or parentheses if you're in America, 2020. But you wouldn't go back to Flight Simulator X now, would you? Sure, at the time, I mean, it was awe-inspiring. I'm sure that you have many nostalgic memories of it, but you wouldn't go back to it. And I think the same will be true about the transition from 2020 to 2024. And I'm excited to see what they've got cooking. Alright, I definitely can see the airfield. I'm going to get that landing gear down. I'm going to get that autopilot off. A classic diagonal join here. Landing gear is down and locked. Midfield diagonal join onto the downwind. Much easier to find than the lesser spotted grass runways that we've been playing around with for the rest of the evening. Okay, we're being the end of the runway threshold. So that first notch of flaps is coming in. 90 knots. A little bit trim up. Do one continuous arc. I am so used to being able to see the runway. I find it extraordinarily disorientating when I can't. Oh, that is a tight one in. Oof. Full rich, high RPM. We've got that. Second notch of flaps coming in.
$500.
We are high. And we are fast. And this probably should be a go around again, but we've got a long runway and we are nowhere near as bad as we were on that other approach. That final notch of flaps coming in. So 80 knots, 70. We're fast, but this runway's huge, so we're fine. And bleed the speed off. Yeah, we're fine. And we're down. And a gentle touchdown of the nose. Flaps is coming out, lean for taxi. Not bad if I do say so myself. We're even going to get ourselves off at this first taxiway. Yeah, she's a beaut. Taxi lights coming on. You can do pretty bonkers stuff in this plane, and she is very forgiving. She's also fast. To show you some of the other stuff with this aircraft, that's now that we've got her parked up. So all these windows work, doors, that window, door, but also we can static elements, external power, tow bar. So if I come out of VR, in fact I'll close these doors. There we go. A cover. So let's just go outside and have a look. So you've got your chocks. No tie downs on this aircraft. You've got the tow bar, you've got external power, and then you've got your pitot tube covers and your canopy over the top of it. I think for £16, 16 quid as we would say in the UK, that's a really nice.
Just realised that none of you can hear a word I'm saying because I've muted myself. You've got pitot covers, you've got external power, you've got chocks, you've got your canopy cover. No tie downs for some reason on this aircraft, not sure why. But for £16, 16 quid as we would say in the UK, I think that's a really nice investment, and you can't really go wrong. Yes, honestly, I've really enjoyed. I've been flying this aircraft most of today. I've really enjoyed myself. It's been phenomenal. Let's have a quick scan through of the comments before we go. I've got terrible VR hair. Mike Bolt, thank you very much. Yes, I do my best. You obviously were not on the stream earlier with my absolute abysmal landing. How do I record just one eye in VR? I just zoom in on the screen, actually. I can show you what I do. So if I reset that view, back to the cockpit view and I go back into VR. You end up with those two eyes there. Essentially, I've just got a view on OBS, which is what I use to record, where it just zooms in on one of those eyes. And because I'm using a 4K monitor, it's just a good enough resolution that it looks okay. Some people use screen mirroring. I don't like that. That degrades performance. But yeah, I mean, essentially, if you look at that sort of left eye, it's just a zoomed in version of that. I've just stretched the screen out essentially. Ben says that's all very well, but how does the carpet compare to the Arrow? Well, I mean, that's a good question. Not really much of a carpet in here. It's worn. It smells pretty mank. It's got that 70s cigarette thing going on. I'm pretty sure that the Arrow has got some nice red carpet in there, but of course it depends which livery you're using. So pretty much a carrier pattern, that one. Yeah. Yes, it was. We were balancing the amount of G versus the speed that we were doing. Folks, that is the end of this evening's stream. Apparently it became a lesson in don't drink too much and then do a bunch of landings one after another. I've had a phenomenal time. I hope you've enjoyed yourselves. As always, I hope you're very well wherever in the world you are. Stay safe in the skies, and I will see you in my next one.